and welcome to another episode of Expat Teacher Tales. I'm your host, Sourjya Mukherjee, and I'm so excited to have you back for another episode. Firstly, a heartfelt thanks to each one of you for sharing your feedback with me, sharing your comments with me. It really means a lot. In our last episode, I shared my journey as an international educator and the lessons I have learned along the way. If you haven't had a chance to listen yet, I highly recommend checking it out. Today, we are diving into a topic that's essential for every teacher, especially those working in international schools, and that is how to build a strong classroom culture. Whether you are teaching students from one culture or many, creating a positive, inclusive classroom environment is key to student success. Now, before we get into the strategies, let's define what we mean by classroom culture. Classroom culture is the atmosphere, attitudes, and behaviors that define your classroom environment. It's how students interact with each other, how they interact with you as their teacher, and how learning happens. To put it simply, if I have to walk into your class, or for anyone have to walk into your class, what are they going to see? What are they going to feel? What are they going to experience as a third person of what's going on in your classroom? In an international school, this can be even more complex because you are often working with students and families from diverse cultural backgrounds. Now, classroom culture isn't just about rules and routines. It's about creating a safe, respectful, and engaging space where every student feels like they belong. Now, let's talk about how you can build a strong classroom culture step by step. Again, these are some strategies that have worked for me and many of my colleagues in international schools. You can always come up with your own strategies. You can always learn from each other and share the best practices. This is not an exhaustive list. So firstly, very important, set clear expectations early. One of the first things I do at the beginning of the school year is to establish clear expectations for behavior and learning. But here's the key. I don't just tell students what the rules are, I involve them in the process. For example, we brainstorm together what a respectful classroom looks like and sounds like. This gives students ownership of the classroom culture. But that's not it. The most important part to setting clear expectation is the part that follows it. That is consistently every single day reiterating and sticking to it. Kids are smart. They observe and they see if you are ready to bend the rules. So every single day for probably first couple of months, you might need to reiterate the same expectations, go through the same rigorous process of whatever rules that you guys have agreed and set to ensure that becomes a habit, that becomes a class culture. Secondly, celebrate diversity. In international schools, diversity is one of our greatest strengths. Take time to celebrate the different cultures in your classroom. You could have students share traditions, holidays, or even teach their classmates a few words from their language. Of course, be careful what they are teaching each other. This not only fosters inclusivity, but also helps students learn from each other. Moving on is building relationships. Oh, I cannot stress how important this is, not only classroom culture, everywhere. Building a strong culture starts with building strong relationships. Learn your students' names quickly, as quickly as you possibly can. Take an interest in their lives outside of schools. For example, if a student is passionate about football, ask about their last game. Small gestures like this show students that you care about them as an individual, and that connection goes a long way. I clearly remember I had a student who loved numbers, but he wasn't as good as he was in maths, as in my subject biology. So, what I had to do is every time I had to ask a question to him related to biology, I had to somehow feed in numbers into it. For example, if I had to ask about the process of photosynthesis, I would probably give for him a trigger as imagine you are looking at 25 daffodils somewhere or 55 roses in a garden and stuff like that. You get my point. And that number factor triggered him into thinking because I knew his personal choice and personal inclination towards number. So building relationships is very, very, very important. Moving on, encourage collaboration. Collaboration is essential in any classroom, but it's especially powerful in international schools. Group projects and activities where students from different backgrounds work together teach them teamwork and communication skills. And as a professional, you know how important these skills are in today's world. Next, model the behavior you want to see. As a teacher, you are the role model. As a teacher, you set the tone for your classroom. If you want students to be respectful and kind, you need to model that behavior. Show patience, listen actively, and treat every student with respect. Will it pass on easily? No. But do you need to do it consistently every single time? Yes. Address challenges proactively. No classroom is perfect. Let's be honest. It's been more than a decade I have been into classroom, and there are colleagues of mine, those who have been into classroom for more than 20, 25 years. No classroom is perfect, and challenges will arise. Every generation is different, their problems are unique, and hence your classroom requirements keeps on changing every single year. When conflicts happen, address them early and constructively. For example, if there's a misunderstanding between students from different cultural backgrounds, turn it into a teachable moment if you can. Help them see things from each other's perspective. Let me share a quick story from my personal experience. In one of my first international teaching jobs, I was in Dubai, I had a class with students from 2 to 3 different countries. At first, there were some challenges. Students were stuck to their own groups, and there was a bit of hesitation to mix, obviously. So, I decided to implement a project where students had to pair up with someone from a different country. They had to interview each other about their favorite foods, traditions, and hobbies and present what they learned to the class. And somehow I connected it with the topic that we were doing at that time. By the end of the project, the students not only learned more about each other, but also started building relationships and friendships across cultural lines. That year, the classroom became a space where everyone felt included and valued. To wrap up, here are a few quick tips you can start using right away to build a strong classroom culture. Number one, start each day with a quick check-in. Ask students how they are feeling or what they are looking forward to. They feel good, just the same way you and I do. Number two, use positive reinforcement. Acknowledge and praise good behavior and effort, and do it publicly. Number three, very important, be consistent. If you set expectations, follow through every single day. Lastly, reflect. Reflect on your own teaching practices. Ask yourself, am I being inclusive? Am I setting the right tone? What can I learn from them? What can I learn from my colleagues? it's very, very important to reflect. Remember, classroom culture is something you build every single day. Small actions add up to big results. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Expat Teacher Tales. I hope these strategies inspire you to reflect on and strengthen your own classroom culture. If you found this episode helpful, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a fellow educator. I'd also love to hear your thoughts. What strategies do you use to build classroom culture? Reach out to me at LinkedIn. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep making a difference wherever you are in the world.